Hello fam, welcome back to the channel, and today we are back with another tutorial. So in this tutorial we are going to look at how to model this standing fan and then texture it. So we are going to go through the step-by-step process from beginning to the end, from modeling throughout to the texturing and then lighting, basic lighting of the model. So make sure you like and subscribe, and then you can comment your thoughts for more videos. Let's jump into the tutorial. Okay, so we are going to begin by deleting everything. Select A, X, and delete. And then let's bring in our UV sphere. Okay, and then 3 to go to the side view, and then I want to tap into our edit mode and then rotate 90 degree, R90, and then click to accept. And then we are going to select the 2 points at the end, and then we will enable our proportional editing tool, then scale on the y-axis, okay, to flatten out the ends, scale once more, okay, and then select everything and then scale on the y-axis. Okay, scale everything on the y-axis. Okay, like this. Okay, so this is okay. So what we are going to do next is we are going to go to this edge select mode and then select all the rings around. Select all the rings around. Okay, out to this point. Then Shift D to duplicate, and then right click to maintain the position. Then we are going to press P to separate, and then let's tab to the object mode and then hide our first sphere, and then we are going to right click and then convert to curve. Okay, so after that we will come to this curve properties over here, and then we are going to change. We drop down the geometry over here, and then we are going to change the depth over here to 0.009, and then we change the extrude under the geometry. We change the extrude to 0.004. Okay, so the thickness is okay, and then we will go to the modifiers tab and then add our subdivision surface, and then we can leave it at 1 for now, or let's increase it to 2. Okay, so we are done with the rings, so we can now hide it and then unhide our original mesh, then tab into the edit mode. Then let's go to the front view. So what we are going to do is we are going to select this edge loop over here, hold down the Alt key and then click to select, and then we don't want to select this edges over here, so what we are going to do is we use the C, press C, and then use the middle mouse button to deselect, and then do the same for the back side, C, and then deselect these edges. Okay, and then now I'm going to Shift D to duplicate and then right click, and then we are going to press P, separate selection, tap to object mode, and then hide the original sphere. So we are going to basically do the same process we did for the other rings. So right click, now convert to curves, and then in the curves data you change the extrude to 0.004, and then I'm going to change the depth to 0.009. Okay, so we have our depth, and then let's shift smooth, and then come to the modifiers tab and then add our subdivision surface to smoothen it out, and then increase it to 2. Okay, so we can unhide the first rings. Okay, so now you can see that it's not really rotated how we want it. We want the flat side looking up, so we still have this selected. Let's tap into the edit mode and then press Ctrl, hold down the Ctrl and then press T and then 90 to rotate it 90 degrees so that this flat side is looking up. Okay, so we're done with that one. So you can tap back to the object mode and you can see it's passing through these rings. So let's go back to the edit mode and then scale it down a bit so that it's not passing through our rings. Okay, back to the object mode. Okay, so the next step we are going to do is we are going to duplicate. We are going to recreate this ring all around our this model or this object all around our ring. So what we are going to do next is we are going to use the array modifier. So let's come to the modifier and then select the array modifier. Okay, so for the array modifier we are going to enable this relative offset and then we are going to use this object offset. Okay, so how this works is now we need an object to offset, enable to use it to offset this array duplicate. So press Shift A and then let's bring in an empty, then like this. So we are going to use this empty object to control the positioning or the offset of our duplicate. So let's select this ring here and then you see the more even if you increase this count you don't see any changes. So what you are going to do is you come to this object and then you are going to click and then select the empty. So now this empty, you see if you move it, you see now it's controlling the offset of our object. So what we want to do is rotate. I'm going to rotate this object. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, or rather rotate it 45 degrees. Okay, so rotate it 45 degrees and then select our object again, and then we are going to increase the count until we have it all around. So that's how we just duplicate this object around. Okay, so we are basically done with our rings, as you can see. So the next step is you are going to create the fan. Okay, so in order to create the fan, let's bring back our hidden sphere, then select it, then tap into our edit mode, and then we are going to select this, go to this, the vertex select mode, and then we are going to select the vertex front end. Okay, I want to select this front vertex and then control and then number pad plus, and then select these faces and then Shift D to duplicate and then P to separate. So we can hide our sphere again and we are left with this here. So what we are going to do here is we are going to add a mirror modifier for this. Okay, so you can see it's mirroring on the x-axis, but I want it to mirror on the y-axis, so we disable this x and then enable the y-axis mirror. Okay, and then let's tap into the edit mode, and then we are going to extrude. Select everything, and then E to extrude to give it some thickness. Okay, and then we can add subdivision modifier, and then let's increase it to 2. Okay, and then let's show smooth, and then what we can do next is we can Shift D to duplicate. So we want to still use this duplicate to create our fan. So let's go to the side view, number 3 to go to the side view, and then Shift D to duplicate, and then right click to leave it where it is, and then tap into the edit mode. Make sure everything is selected. Press A to select everything, and then go back to the side view, and then press G to grab, and then Y to move it on our Y axis. Okay, so we want it to be around somewhere here. Okay, and then now let's select this vertex, then control and number pad class to select up to this point, and then X to delete vertices. Okay, so we are left with only this flat plane over here. So let's hold down the Alt key and select the edges, and then let's make sure that our clipping is enabled here in the mirror modifier. So enable the clipping, and then E to extrude, and then extrude on the Y axis. Okay, so this is how we want it. And then we are going to sharpen our edges, Control R, and then add an edge loop to sharpen this edge. Okay, so this is going to be our fan. So right now, what you are going to do next is you are going to model the fan, the fan blade. So we want to isolate this, and so that we can focus on only the fan blade. So let's use the number pad / key, and then it's going to isolate only our fan blades so that we can work freely. Okay, so now what we're going to do next is go to the top view, numpad 7, and then select these faces. So we are going to change it to face select mode. Then we are going to select this 1, 2, 3, 4 while holding down the shift key. I'm going to select the 4 faces. Okay, before we do that, let's have to our object mode, and then we want to apply this mirror modifier. So let's hover our mouse pointer over this mirror modifier, and then Control A to apply. Then let's tap back to our edit mode, and then we are going to select this edge in the middle here. So come to edge select mode, Alt, and then select, and then press X on your keyboard, and then dissolve edges. Okay, and then go back to your face select mode, and then hold down the Alt key and select, and then you're going to use the I key to insert, then create this incision over here. Okay, and then let's go numpad 7 to go to the top view. Now I'm going to select this for 1, hold down the shift 2, 3, 4. So we are going to select the first 4 faces, and then we are going to jump another 1, 2, 3, 4, and then start with this one, holding down the shift, select another 4 faces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then jump 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then jump 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hold down the 1, select your 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now we have proportionately selected our faces that we are going to extrude out as our fan blades. So what we are going to do next is press the I key to insert. Okay, and then numpad 1 to go to your front view, and then you are going to use the hold down the Alt key and then E, and then you are going to get this extrude options, and then the extrude faces along normals, and then pull it out. Okay, so you can now use the numpad / key so that you see where we are extruding to. So let's undo the extrude so that we see the limit we are going to extrude to. We have to make sure that it's not going out of our rings. So numpad 1 front view, Alt E, extrude along normals, and then let's extrude to this point. Okay, click to accept, and then I'm going to add edge loops in the middle. Control R, add an edge loop. Control R, Control R, Control R. Okay, so I'm now going to go to face select mode, and then select these faces, and then we are going to use the Control numpad class to select more, and then I want to use the C to deselect these faces. Okay, let's go to the vertex select mode and then deselect these faces also, these vertices also. Okay, so what we are going to do next is we are going to change this global to normal, and then we use the period key and then change it to individual origins. So we are going to rotate. After you press R, rotate on the Z axis, and it's going to rotate each faces on its own axis. So I'm going to rotate it, so you can scroll up and you can scroll down to increase the effect of this proportional editing. So something like this is okay. Okay, and then go to the front view and then rotate. Okay, we can change it back to the medium point and then rotate our fans a bit to get this effect. Okay, so now we have our fan blades, but the thickness is too much and we don't like how thick it is, so I'm going to use the control numpad class to select these faces. Then we are going to press S and then Y to scale them on the Y axis, so you can disable the proportional editing so that it doesn't affect these ones, and S and then Y to flatten them, to flatten the blades. Okay, so we now have our blades. So we're basically done with our fan blades. So the next thing we are going to model is the engine over here, or the motor, the fan motor behind the head. So let's go to the side view, tap into the edit mode, and then we are going to, let's rather select this one and then enable, apply the mirror modifier, Ctrl A to apply, and then tap into the edit mode, and then I'm going to select this vertex, control number pad class, and then delete vertices, X to delete vertices, and then I left with this flat plane. So let's select this flat plane, go to our side view, and then grab it and then move it on the Y axis somewhere around here, and then E to extrude. I'm going to extrude it out a bit. Okay, extrude it maybe to the edge of the rings. Okay, so something like this is okay. And then I want to add an edge loop over here to sharpen it. Okay. Then I want to select this vertex, X to delete vertices, and then you select, hold down your Alt key, select these edges, and then E to extrude on the Y axis. So you can change the normal to global, and then we extrude on the Y axis, E, Y, extrude it a bit, accept, and then E and Y to extrude it out more. Okay, so you want to extrude it and to this point, so you can go to the side view, Shift Z to go to your wireframe mode, and then G and Y to move it on the Y axis, and then let's bring it towards this space. Okay, and then I want to extrude E and then scale just a bit, and then E and scale once more. Okay, so we are going to create another hole in the fan. So let's tap into our object mode, select our fan, and then go to the edit mode, and then I want to select this. Let's isolate it, numpad slash to isolate our fan, and then select these two vertices, and then X to delete vertices, and then you can select Alt click to select these two vertices, and then we go back to our view. You can see that it's already matching this side. So what we are going to do next is we are going to use the bow to the bridge tool. So you come anywhere on your interface and then right click and then bridge. Okay, so if you don't see this here, you just have to enable it in your preferences. Go to add-ons and then you search for loop tools and then enable it. So we are going to get these options over here. Okay, so let's add another edge loop here. Control R to sharpen this loop over here. Control R to sharpen this one over here. Okay, great. So we are now done with our loop over here. So let's do the same thing for this side. So what we are going to do is just select this place, scale it down, scale it more, and then we are going to extrude inwards on the y-axis and extrude it more on the y-axis. And then you can press F, let's bring it down a bit, and then F to fill, and then I to insert in order to sharpen it, and then I. So we are done with our blade. So let's go to the side view, tab into the edit mode, and then we are going to select these faces and then drag them out a bit, GUI, and then move them out on the y-axis. And then I want to add another edge loop over here. Sorry, let's add it here and then sharpen this side. Okay, so we are now done with the motor. We don't like this stretch over here, so let's come back, select the faces, and then press I. Yes. Select, press I to insert, and then I to insert it more. So we don't have the ugly faces over there. Okay. So we're basically done with the head of our fan. So we left with the stand. So you always make sure to save your work, Control S, and make sure that all your works are saved in a very good. You have to name your work. Make sure it's work is saved before Blender crashes. Okay. So we have our work saved. So the next step is we are going to model the stand. So for the stand, Shift A to bring in a cube, and then I want to scale down the cube, tab into edit mode, scale it down, and then tab into the object mode, and then I want to move the cube to this side, grab Z. Okay, so somewhere here, and then scale it, tab into the edit mode, scale it on the y-axis. Okay, so let's go back to our front view. Okay, so it's okay from the front view. So let's select these bottom faces and then G, Z to grab it and move it on the Z axis. So we want this thing to match the length of our object here. So let's select this head here, and then select and then grab, move it to the Y axis. Okay, let's go back and select our object here, and then what we are going to do is we are going to use the bevel modifier. So go to the modifier and then bevel. Okay, so let's model the base of the fan here. So let's shift D to duplicate the face, then scale it out. Go to the front view, make sure that I'm scaling it to the right proportion. And then let's move it a bit forward, GUI, to move it forward. And let's extrude it on the Z axis. Okay. Okay, so you can go to the face select and then select these faces and then scale them out a bit. And then you can select this face and then move it forward a bit. Okay. So you can come back to this bevel modifier and then increase the segments. You can shade smooth, right click and shade smooth, and then add another subdivision surface modifier. Increase it to 2. So you can decrease the amount of the bevel. Hold down your shift and then drag it out a bit. Okay. So let's go to our edit mode. Control R to add an edge loop. Move it forward. And then let's go to the vertex select mode. Shift D to go to our wireframe mode and then select these vertices and then double G to bring it down a bit, just to give it that arc shape. Okay, so what you want to do next is you can select these faces over here and then I to insert and then E to extrude, just to give it more of a stylish look. So you can move it up a bit. I to insert. Okay, so we now have our shape over here. So we don't like how this head looks. It's so cube. It looks like a cube. So we don't want the bevel to affect. We don't want the bevel to affect this side. So what we're going to do is we go to the edit mode and then we go to the vertex properties over here, and then we are going to add a vertex group, and then hover on this base, click on L to select only the base, and then assign the weight of 1 to it. And then now you can tap to the object mode, go back to our modifiers, and then in the bevel select, let's change this limited angle to the vertex group, and then we are going to select this group over here. So you can see our bevel is not affecting this place. So let's go and fix it. So what you can do is select this face over here and then X to delete face, and then select the top face and then I to insert, and then I to insert once more. Okay. Okay, and then you can select, go to the edge select mode and then select this face, this edges over here. Then Control B to bevel. So give it some sharpening. Okay, so this is better. So let's select this face over here. Go to face select mode, select this face, and then you can use your loop tools and then change it to circle. Go to the top view and then you can just isolate it by using the numpad / key, and then we can rotate it to fit it very well. Okay, and then let's come back and then I to insert it more, and then you can use, let's scale it down a bit, and then E to extrude, and then E to extrude once more. and then X to delete faces. Okay, so we're basically done with the head. So let's go back to this head, and then I'm just going to create some faces over here. So what we're going to do is come to our side view and make sure we are in the face select mode. Shift D and go to the wireframe mode, and then let's select 1, 2, 3 faces. Okay, and then let's press I key. Before we do that, let's add an edge loop, 2 edge loops, and then click. Let's scale it on the y-axis. Okay, and then go to the face select mode, and then select these faces 1, 2, 3. So it's going to select the faces around here, and then I want to insert the faces, and then I want to use Alt E to extrude along normals. I want to extrude it inwards a bit, and then Alt E, and then extrude it inwards more, and then I, and then insert it a bit. I to insert. Okay, so after we've done this, make sure that we've not deselected it. So you hold down your Control key and then numpad plus to select these faces, and then Shift E to sharpen the edges. Okay, so now we have our, I don't know what to call it here, but we have these edges over here. Okay, so we're basically done with our form. So the next thing we can model is the regulator. So for the regulator, we can just bring in our cylinder, and then what you can do is select this base, and then tab into edit mode, select the face over here, and then Shift S, and then cursor to selected. This is our cursor to selected, so remove our cursor to this face, and then select our cylinder, and then Shift S, and then selection to cursor, keep offset. So let's tab into the edit mode, and then we're going to scale our cylinder down. Okay, and then we will rotate. How to rotate? Rotate it to match our line, and then scale on the Z axis. So you can change it to normal and scale on the Z axis. Think on the Y axis. Okay, so the scaling is not going to help for us. So what we are going to do is go to the side view, select this face, and then double G, and then move it up to around this. Okay, and then we're going to go to the object mode, and then add subdivision surface, and let's add. Okay, so let's add the subdivision. Go to the edit mode, select these 2 faces, and then I to insert, and then I to clear the ugly faces, and then I want to select this face. Select this face, and then Shift, and then click here. And after you've selected these 2 faces, you want to select the faces around without selecting the next one. So what you are going to do is hold down your Shift and your Control, and then use the numpad plus key, and then we are going to have this selection. Okay, so after you've selected it, press I to insert, and then use the Alt E, extrude along normals, and then I to insert it once more. Okay, I think we did it the wrong way, so let's undo. You have to do this before you insert. So let's select these faces, Shift Control, and then numpad plus, and then I to insert, and then Alt E to extrude align the mouse, and I to insert it once more. Now you can select these faces, compass slash to isolate, and then let's select these faces, then I to insert, and then let's press I once more to insert, and then Ctrl R and add an edge loop to sharpen these faces. Okay, so that's basically it. And then let's choose smooth, and then I want to move it down a bit. So let's tap into the edit mode, select everything, and then move it down a bit, and then let's rotate it to match our model. Okay, so that's basically it. Okay, so we're almost done, so we can just scale it up in order to match our size proportionally. And we can move it down a bit. Can move it down just a little bit. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is we want to add a cable from the back of our fan. So what we are going to do, I want to use a technique. So Shift A to bring in a Bezier curve, and then tap into the edit mode, select everything, and then X to delete the vertices. Then come here to your draw tool over here. Now let's change from cursor to surface, and then go to the top view. Now what we are going to do is we are going to draw a curve how you want our cable to be. So we just draw maybe something like this, and you see that it generates a curve for us. So go to the front view, everything selected, grab it and then move it on Z axis to bring it down. Okay, about here, and then tap back to your object mode, and then come to this curve properties and then change. Let's increase our depth a bit. Okay, around something like this. Then let's add a subdivision modifier to smoothen it out. Okay, so that's basically it. So that's how you add a cable. Then you can add another thing, that's the floor plane. So you can select everything, A to select everything, and grab and then move it on the Z axis to move it on our world floor, and then Shift A to bring in a plane, and then let's clear, or G to clear, and then you can scale it. So we have our fan over here. So we are done with our fan. So the next thing we want to do is to texture our fan and add lighting, texture and lighting. So let's do this on the next video. So catch you on the next one, part 2 of this video. So I'm going to see you on the take care.